It's a rainy day and there's a lot of traffic, but I thought I would just switch out to a different location. I'm immediately outside of the movie theater right now. Switch just for some variety's sake, so y'all can see some new stuff behind me besides my car or my pillow in my room, in the walls of my room. I just got finished seeing what I think is maybe the best horror movie in the last 5 or 6 years, and it's Barbarian. It's definitely, when I think of, and I've become more of a horror aficionado in my old age for some reason. I see when I was young, you know, that's the time when most people are into horror, because it's just like, ooh, let's see something scary. But I really wasn't into horror movies when I was young. And of course, when I was young, I think most horror movies were schlock. Friday the 13th, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street, what have you. But there were probably some good ones too, that I'm just not thinking about right now. But I think at some point I started to see the potential in horror as far as what it is able to evoke, what one is able to accomplish potentially. I think horror might be the most woke resistant genre that there is, other than comedy. I mean, but the thing is with comedy, comedy has not been woke resistant because, as we've seen for the last few years, but the thing is, nobody thinks that the woke stuff is funny. Everybody knows that you have to toss the woke crap if you want to make a real, legit comedy, something that actually makes people laugh, because comedy is about truth, and truth is not woke. There's some similar dynamic with horror, because horror is about, you know, reaching in to your soul and finding that which scares you. I mean, at its best, it's like that. At its worst, it's just a bunch of schlock and gore. But I think that maybe that's part of my how I became more interested in horror, because you kind of have to go there, you know, in order to. And when I say there, I mean you have to go to a place that's surprising and uncomfortable, and that precludes any wokeness, right? Because to do the woke thing would be no surprise. And I also just think horror can be, you know, when done well, it can be very imaginative and very rich. You know, there can be all kinds of things. There can be subtext. There can be all those good things that, you know, literary that English teachers and film aficionados like to blather on about, like me. The last horror movie that I saw that really did this for me, that really had this kind of effect upon me, was, I mean, the last really genre horror movie. There have been other movies that I've seen that have had, you know, horror elements to them that I've liked a lot. Most notably Joker. I don't think that's a horror movie, but certainly there's a horrific side to it. That's still probably my favorite movie of the last decade. I'm dubious about the sequel, but we'll see. We'll see. Todd Phillips might, I have some faith that Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix might be able to pull something out there, considering how well they did with the original. But the last horror movie that I really enjoyed in this way was It Follows, and that was released, I believe, back in 2015. And I've written a review of it. I think it's still up. I don't know much about the stuff that I posted at Affirmative Right. I think all my stuff is still up there, but I don't know for sure. I'll hunt for it, and if I can find it, I will link it below. But the movie that I just saw, Barbarian, is similar in a lot of ways, just in really having a lot of unexpected twists and turns. You really don't know, you really don't expect what's coming next. And just having a premise that is, I don't know, multi-layered. What would I say this movie is about really? It's about survival and what you do, the sacrifices you potentially have to make, including moral sacrifices, to survive. So we meet a host of characters in this movie, and we're deked. There's a deke early on. There's a juke early on. I'm not going to spoil anything here because I think y'all should see it. I only spoil movies that I think are crap. But there's a moment early on in the movie where we're led to think, or we're led to suspect, that a certain character is the bad guy or the bad person in question, and then that all gets turned on its head, and it's like, whoa, what's really going on here? It's very disorientating in the best possible way. And then, just like Hitchcock in Psycho, after the first third or so of the movie, it abruptly changes direction. One of the main characters dies. I'll give that much away. I won't say anything more than that. And then we abruptly change direction to something that seems completely irrelevant. Another character who seems not to be relevant to anything that had happened to the first two characters to which we'd been introduced. But then we gradually see how he fits into the story. And there's a moral ambiguity to his character in particular, the new character to which we're introduced after the 30-minute mark, after the equivalent of the shower scene in Psycho. And this new character is kind of he's kind of the essence of moral ambiguity, because he's been accused of doing something and we don't know whether he's guilty or not. And the movie doesn't try to villainize him. We don't know one way or the other. There's some times where he's likable, and even kind of hapless and goofy, where we would think he couldn't possibly be guilty. But on the other hand, there are other things we do, other moments where he might be, he might be more complicit but we never know absolutely for sure about him. And in the very end, the characters who are left, who are, I'll just say there are monsters, it's not so much, well, I guess it is kind of a portrait of evil, but it's more a portrait of just horrific, bestial terror, right? There are monsters that are legitimately horrifying who we meet up with, and we eventually find out what their whole backstory is. And so we have the humans, trying to get away, trying to flee from the captivity that the monsters had put them in. And in the end, we see that for both of the characters who are left in the end, they both have to make certain moral compromises. Well, they don't have to. They choose to. And in one of their cases, it's more understandable and even poignant. There's even a moment where a frightening monster, is allowed to be poignant and be understanding, the way that a mother is self-sacrificial for her child. But anyway, I guess that's the real question in the movie ultimately, or the through line, if you will. What do you do to survive? What is justified? How do you justify certain things, and how far are you willing to go? We see how far both of these characters, who remain in the end, they're the recognizably human characters, the characters to whom we can relate, for better or for worse, because there's no cardboard cutouts of just pure good or pure evil. We can relate to both of these characters to some degree, but we see the sacrifices that they make in order to survive, and ultimately what happens, and who gets to survive and why. So I would say it's not quite the same, not quite as interesting thematically as It Follows, but as far as just being really good, really entertaining, really captivating, really capturing your interest, and just throwing you tons of curveballs, like you don't see what's coming next. There's only one moment that's extremely predictable, where a character says something and you know what's going to happen immediately afterwards. But that's the exception that proves the rule. Other than that, you just have no idea. And I'm going to keep this vague, just because, again, I don't want to give anything away. But if you are a movie-going person, if you feel that it is okay to give a few percentages of a penny to some sleazy Hollywood producer, by however much you give them by purchasing a ticket at your local AMC or whatever. This is something we talked about in my Q&A the other day. Or if you can pirate it, I would not have any judgment about that. Whatever you do, I think if you like horror, if you like to be entertained, if you like thoughtful, smart, movies, then check out Barbarian. It gets my recommendation. It gets my seal of approval, for whatever that's worth. Thanks for watching.